back on the 2003 Ford Ranger Edge. Let's see, what are we doing today? Let me block that sun for you. What are we doing today? Well, so far I've disconnected the battery because that's usually like every job. Before you start working on the vehicle, you want to disconnect the battery. Just make sure you don't short anything out. There ain't no fires, stuff like that. Lord knows I've had enough fires in my history. Luckily, there were no fires in this rebuild. So to catch you guys up to speed, if you haven't watched so far, we rebuilt this engine. It might be kind of indicative. You can kind of see the block being painted, and the lower intake, the upper intake got her washed off a little bit, and then you got the header, the exhaust manifold, and the block down there that's been painted. But you know, did some work on this so far, but doing some relatively short videos compared to the other ones, just for a couple reasons, you know, just to make shorter videos so you don't spend as much time watching it, because some of this this content not necessarily not useful or not entertaining to some degree. The stuff that needs to be done with this truck, and we'll just knock it out in little short increments, so that you don't have to sit through a 30-minute video of me changing a tire. Okay, now I hate watching those videos and I hate making those videos. I'm sure most of you guys and girls know how to change a tire already. If not, I'm pretty sure there's some really cool 3-minute how-to videos on how to change a tire. But what we're working on, after we got the battery disconnected, is I need to get under this, or really on top of the steering column here, because if you notice, well, I'm not going to start it, but basically this is like in park, right? This is actually probably reverse, and it looks like it's in park. Okay, that's a common thing. There's a little bit of slop in this. I mean, there's always like a little bit of slop in every little gear shift or any little shift lever. There's the OD. Okay. And one of the reasons why some of these, well, I'll just say Fords in general, have an issue is right here under this old panel right here. There's a rod that goes all the way back to underneath the speedo, or underneath the speedometer and everything. And there's a rubber bushing. I could better show you, but there's a rubber bushing back there that holds that rod into place, and that's the friction point. And that's you know, kind of, I'll say, prone to fail based off of, you know, other people that have had the same issue, and they've been able to fix it this way. Now, I did check underneath. Now, there's another thing that you would check under this inspection panel. It's kind of hard to get in there with a camera, but there's basically a bracket that's connected to this shift lever that has a cable that runs down to it, and it runs underneath here, and there's a piece under there with two star bit, call it Torx bolt under there, that will come loose. I've got under there, I've looked at it, it is not loose at all. The thread locker on there seems to be holding pretty tight. I shook it like 50 different ways. That does not seem to be the issue with this particular car, with this particular truck. So I'm willing to bet that underneath here is the culprit. Now I also gotta, and the good thing is, well, it's not really good, but I need to address the lights that are behind here too. That's the other thing we're gonna be doing, because it's at nighttime. This is all dark. You can't see this, you can't see this, and you really can't see half of this gauge, which is mainly the ones that you use. I'm not doing 120, so this is all kind of dark up to here, and that's exactly the speeds that I need to see. So there's probably 1 or 2 lights in here that have gone out. Now, in order for me to get those parts, I don't know the part number of the light. I need to take it out, take this part off to the point where I can get up in there and get the lights out, so that I can take that to the auto parts store and then match it up from there. So by doing this, I can also, while I'm in there, go ahead and address that. Anytime you start taking a dash apart, it sucks, because you gotta get, like, if you want to get to one thing over here, sometimes, maybe not this, but like, you know, some other parts, you got to take the whole dash down and everything, and you're dealing with airbags. And down here, I have the airbag switched off, so, you know, hopefully that's a little bit extra protection, but I do have the battery disconnected. Shouldn't get into too much airbag stuff, but, you know, I hate when I'm in there messing with the wires and stuff and still got the airbags active, because it's pretty much like a active explosive until it's been exploded. But I'm not going to be taking the airbags out. I'm not planning to take the airbags out and be handling them. So we're going to get in there and you know, take this steering wheel till it just kind of sits down on the seat, and then we'll be able to get more clearance to get in there and look at that. So without further ado, we'll get to doing that. All right, so the thing that I was talking about, maybe you can see it in this back plate right over here. Right, I got my finger on it. 1 and 2 Torx bit bolts. They're right here. I've checked this linkage, and this is not, this linkage right here that I got my finger on, it's not loose. That's another thing that can cause your shift lever to have some slop in it and everything, but I double checked that and I don't see, it actually looks pretty pristine. All this stuff looks like a time capsule. It's like all nice and not damaged at all, which is surprising. But then again, this isn't a 50-year-old vehicle, but you know, at the same time, pretty amazing. You know, the stuff's still intact and everything. What we're gonna attack is just above the steering column, so we'll get to that. Just want to show you guys that. All right, folks, so here's the 2 plastic pieces. One that's, you can see that black that's under this little plate right here, and you can see one that looks similar back here, a little black that I showed you earlier. All right, and you can see like maybe it causes minimal movement, but you can see how that black piece of plastic, what it's for, what it's used for, and you can see how it can wear down over time. It's there so these brackets don't rub clean off and break over time. Every so often though, it'll get that slop, and there's different ways to tighten up, you know, the slop in there, but this is one of the culprits here. It only took me I did it pretty slow, and it took me maybe like 30 minutes to break this completely down to where it's at right now. All I need to do now is take off these little Torx bits. I don't have the exact size, but I don't know. I'm just by looking at it, probably maybe a 12. I don't know, I'll see. And those 2 back there and these 2 right here, and then you can replace that out once you got the part. I don't know necessarily if it's a dealer part. I might be able to pick it up. I'll see if it's a dealer part or not. Also in the very back, I'm kind of looking too, even farther beyond there, you can see like a little piece of metal moving. I'm gonna check that, double check, make sure there's no slop, and like it's basically like it's past this down in there, and I had to get up underneath to kind of look back there to see if there's anything else that's causing this extra play, because I don't want to replace this and then something else be defective back there and cause these to prematurely wear out. So I'll get started on that. All right, so just wanted to show you guys kind of how the state of the plastic piece right here. You can see we can kind of lift this up a little bit, and this should pop out of here. Now, just by looking at it, I mean, it looks like a typical, let me get this off of here real quick. So it just looks like there's a little plastic piece, nothing big, right? Should be a relatively cheap part. I know you guys know how your experience is going to the dealership. Sometimes these little parts right here cost something stupid like 70 bucks for these things. I don't think this one in particular would, but I can see it's got some noticeable wear patterns. It's plastic, you know what I mean? It's meant to rub so it doesn't destroy the metal parts. But I think this one's the better of the 2. And the other one back there, I saw more play in the other one that's back further on. So I'm gonna get to that one and see what that one looks like. All right, so as you can see, well, you can't see the bolt I took out, but as you can see, I'm able to move the steering column down. You know, I'm gonna have it resting on something just enough to where I get just enough room for a little Torx bit there to fit in there. I'm gonna put some pliers on it and turn it with the pliers because I can't fit the socket wrench in there. But that's how I'm gonna get these out right here. And then when I get that, I'll probably look at this one, which I think, and I can see a little evidence already of pieces of plastic that have coming off already. I think that's probably our culprit there. But we'll get this off and we'll take a better look at it. All right, let's see what this guy looks like over here. Just right off the bat, I mean, I barely had to break those nuts loose. You can see how some of that plastic is kind of rubbed off over time. And I'm looking at it, you can kind of see this is the one that we just took off here. And this is the one that we took off of the front here. You notice there's a little bit of plastic, but it seems like way more on this one right here. This was the back one right here. All right, and that's in without anything in there. And you can see, like, as I'm with the gear shifter here, with the shift lever, you know, you can see kind of what the job of those things are to do as I'm trying to shift, how it holds that rod in there so it can pull the little cable that connects all the way down to the shift linkage on the transmission. The difference between the two, if you can see a little bit how these things got two little ridges right here where these are all worn off and everything. Generally the plastic is just kind of worn, and the bolts were loosened up also. So partly was because this was worn somewhat, and partly because the shifting over the years since 2003 when this thing was brand new has loosened those up. So whether or not the factory recommends it, or whether or not people have, you know, may have differing opinions about this, I'm gonna go ahead and put some blue Loctite on that, on those two bolts back here. These two right here, one right there, and that one. Because if you remember earlier, that was the one I took off, and I'm tightening down this plate here. Those were just kind of almost hand tight, just a little bit above hand tight. It's just kind of like tight, just a little bit. And what I'm gonna do here is, like I said, I was gonna put this Loctite on here. Now this is the blue Permalock. This is medium strength. I'm not putting the red high strength on there, but I believe, I'm very confident that that right there will hold that in place good enough to where it won't rattle back out on its own. And hopefully I won't have to dig back into this, but if I do, I will be able to get those off if I have to take those back out for any reason. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to working on that back one the rest of the way, and I'm gonna do the same thing right here. And I'm gonna put that other bracket on. All right, so without further ado, we'll get working on that, and then I'll show you what I did with this Speedo cluster up here. All right, so another way, you see that another way that I can adjust this shift lever is by turning this little, it's this little plastic nut. And as you can see, this red line that goes onto, there's a hook back here that it hooks onto. Now by adjusting this adjusts where that park, reverse, neutral, drive 2 and 1 gear are located. So if I notice that, like, it just then it was off a little bit, I can adjust it to where it'll be in sync with where the gears are supposed to be, because that cable also lets you know which gear you're in, so you can put it in the appropriate gear so the computer knows that you're in park. So if it thinks that you're in reverse but your shift lever says that you're in park, then the computer won't let you start the car, even though it looks like it's in park, but it's not, because to the computer it might be in reverse, which is the problem we were having. Because as you see, now park looks good, you know, and you notice, like, it looks like I'm in neutral, but I'm actually in reverse right now. Okay, so it looks like I'm in reverse, and now I'm in neutral, and now I'm in drive. You see how I kind of barely moved there? Now it's kind of floating a little bit over there. So I need to adjust that. Now I'm back in park, but I need to adjust that a little bit to where it syncs up a little bit better. All right, ladies and gentlemen, got you here in the dark, but this is one of the things right here that I was working on, was this speedometer cluster right here. Before, you could only really see like right here, and I don't take her over 70 miles an hour, so I was really only able to see this in the dark, and that's no bueno. So if you can't tell your speed limit, you know, you're on a 30-mile-an-hour road and you think you're doing 30, but you're really doing 50 because you can't see it. Of course, that's a safety issue. That brake light down there is because I got the e-brake on, but yeah, I pretty much, there was only like one bulb working, so it was only illuminating up one half of that. So I went ahead and replaced all of them. I was going to crack it open and get it done anyway, so I just went ahead and replaced all of them. But so far so good. That's looking good right there. All right, here I am right here getting safety inspector right now. She's over there in the inspection bay. I'll let you guys know once I'm done. Fingers crossed, optimistic. I think we got her nailed down. All right, folks, here we are. Just got safety inspected and just got it registered. And we're driving down the highway. Don't worry, I'm doing the speed limit. We got a 75 mile an hour speed limit, and I'm doing under that. But I've been doing over 60 miles an hour for about 80 miles now. I ain't got so much as any kind of check engine light. The oil pressure's good, and the coolant temperature's good. I'm taking her on her first Maiden voyage, and the camera looks like it's kind of bumping around a little bit, but it's not bumping around that much here in the cab. It's just because it's on the dash. But I'm gonna continue driving on home. Like I said, I went about 80 miles. I'm gonna go about 80 miles back. You know, stretch your legs out. But we'll get you back when I get back home. All right, folks, so you saw me driving. I drove most of the day today, just trying her out and everything, just listening to, you know, the engine, seeing what it's doing. You know, I can feel the transmission slipping and everything, and I already knew that the transmission was going to need some attention. And I've already got plans for that and everything. I just wanted to get it registered and get it roadworthy and legal and everything, so that when I do get the transmission rebuilt, I can just put it back in there and I can go start test driving and everything, make sure it's safe after that, make sure that it's working properly. Just replacing this engine and transmission in here back to OE stock is not the end all be all with this vehicle. Once I get done with this, don't hold me to it, but what I plan on doing is getting a larger engine there. You know, LS comes to mind. You know, I've even looked at stuff like, yeah, it sounds crazy, like VR6. You know, I'm not even, you know, I'll look at some of those Euro motors. I also look at some of those JDM motors. I won't say that I'm going to throw a 2J in here or even a 1J, but, you know, it's not out of the question. It depends on what I can get, at what price and everything, you know, what I have the capability to do. I think I have less capability to do some high-speed tuning and things like that. I'd have to probably employ some help in order to do that, you know, just because I don't have the equipment to do stuff like that. You know, but when you get in now, when you get into like LS territory, you know, I can work with an LS engine and, you know, piece together a transmission and engine from a junkyard. Yeah, everybody says it's relatively cheap, and people use the C word cheap, you know, and some people think that like, oh, that means it's gonna be like a couple $100. They say you can get a couple $100 for an engine. Maybe the block, you might be able to get an engine for like maybe $500 at the bottom dollar from what I've seen. But it's not necessarily, I mean, if you're getting an LS engine to swap it in here, you're not gonna just put, I mean, some people do, they just put a stock, you know, engine back in there and then call it good. But I'm not planning on just putting a stock in motor. I'm talking forged internals and boosting it. That's what I would like to do. But, you know, I would like to have a Lamborghini, but I don't have one of those. But, you know, it's just I'm going to do, you know, what I can within my means and my capabilities with my small garage, you know, real small time operations. Shade tree mechanic, one might call it. I'm going to do whatever I can within my shade tree abilities to do that. But just letting you guys know that that's something that's in the works for that. For those of y'all that still watch these videos and everything, I do appreciate it. And for people who just started viewing these videos, welcome to the channel. And I hope to do a lot more. I mean, I'm not just going to be, you know, just changing out stock parts for stock parts and then calling it a day and, you know, and that's it. I'm going to be doing a little bit more than just that in the future. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So if you guys know of like something that would look cool to put in there, put in as an engine and transmission combo, even rear end, then just leave that in the comment section. I know I said next thing is a transmission, But don't worry, the transmission is coming, I promise you. It's just that I wanted to get this vehicle running and registered. Well, so I got it running and I was going to move to the transmission, but I figured it'd be better to get it registered and be able to drive legally on the road so that I can further test, you know, the transmission and everything once I get the new one rebuilt, once I get the old one rebuilt and put back in this vehicle. Turn your post notifications on, and also check Instagram and Facebook, Mickey Bobby 1. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.